Hi everybody, my name is Omar Crockett. I just graduated university back in December with a bachelor's degree in foreign languages. My native language is English, but I've learned other languages throughout my years as as if I'm like 80 years old. But yeah, I love Telugu language. That's one of my languages I used to learn when I was in India. Yeah, so I'm excited to share my experience with you guys and talk about it. Namaskaram andaru, na peru Omar, nenu America nunchi vachanu. Naku koncham Telugu telusu ఇప్పుడు నేను హైదరాబాద్ నుంచి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు నా తెలుగు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయలేదు. కానీ still నాకు కొంచెం తెలుగు మాట్లాడుకోవాలని ఉంది. So I actually do independent contract work as an interpreter. It's not like full time, but if they like need me, they'll call me and ask if I can do some interpreting for them. I feel like I knew I wanted to have a career that revolved around using languages, but I realized like after traveling as well, I guess helped me understand that I want to have a job that's going to allow me to have a global impact and not just have a domestic impact using languages here in my state. I want to do something on like a more global scale. So I want to be a diplomat in the future. U.S. Foreign Service Officer. So I just graduated, right? And so I'm planning to start my master's this year in international relations. And so get like a strong foundation in global affairs, foreign policy, and also have my languages be an asset to that. And then, you have to take the Foreign Service Officer exam. And so I want to try to do that while I'm in my master's because it's a long process to become a Foreign Service Officer. Fluently, I speak English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I can communicate in Malayalam, Telugu, and Hindi, and I also speak Arabic. I never even thought about a language like Telugu. I wanted to go to India for a semester to learn Hindi. And when I was looking up different programs for the semester, only two popped up. It was one in Hyderabad and there was one in Bangalore. But I chose the one in Hyderabad because they had a wide variety of different coursework to choose from. And Hindi was one of them. So I thought, okay, and me being an American, having like that small perspective that, okay, in India, they speak Hindi, they're all Hindu, that's it, right? I was wrong. I got to India and I realized they're not speaking Hindi here. What is this? And so I was so confused. I was so shocked by that. The mentor on the trip said, this state where they speak Telugu. And I said, oh, I came here to learn Hindi. This is not ideal. But I thought, okay, I'm going to be here for 6 months. I'm already here. I'll just try to learn the local language. And so one of my courses throughout the semester was Telugu, and I loved it. And living with a host family at that made me a lot more confident to speak it because I was speaking it every day with them, right? And just using it throughout the city because I was also commuting because I lived outside of the university that I was staying at. And so I was speaking Telugu every day, and I just thought I came here for one thing, but I got another thing out of it, which was also really cool at the same time. So my Telugu class was 3 days a week, like 2 hours long every day. It was me and another girl. She was actually Indian, but her family is Telugu, but she didn't speak Telugu, so she was also in the class with me. So it was a small class, just 2 students, right? And he focused on conversational Telugu first, and then we got to the letters and things like that. It was fun. I could communicate in Telugu, expressing myself within like, I guess the first month, because I already have like a way with languages, and so I was kind of receptive to like everything that I was being taught, and Telugu makes sense. Like, I think there's like lots of different structures to Telugu that makes a lot of sense to me, and so it was easy to pick it up that way. So my host mom didn't really speak that much English, and so it was always helpful using it with her. Uncle Reddy, he spoke English, so it was kind of like he would speak to me in English most of the time, but but they also had this housemaid, and so she didn't speak any English, so I was always speaking it with her as well. So I got to speak it all the time. It was awesome. I ran into some Hindi when I was in Hyderabad because it's such a metropolitan area, but it was majority Telugu, of course. See, the Hindi speakers who were living in Hyderabad, most of them already like knew English to an extent, but most people who were Telugu there did not know any English, so it was more beneficial for me to study Telugu and to be able to talk to these people. So I still learned Hindi at the same time while I was there in the university, but Telugu had a really great impact on my experience there because I was living there and just understanding like my host family. That was amazing, and they were so helpful at the same time, and it was just amazing. I took like a lot of Ubers and stuff, and so sometimes there would be like a huge language barrier between the driver and me. This one Uber driver that I had, I was late to this event that I was going to downtown. The name of the building, he didn't know it, and so I kept trying to say it, but like my American accent wasn't allowing me to say it properly, and so he just did not know what I was saying. After that experience, I realized I have to learn this language. I have to learn Telugu. Telugu ra? I'm like, yeah, naku Telugu telusu. Like, I get that all the time, yeah. So if I tell someone I know Telugu, the response is, do you know Telugu or do you just know some Telugu? You know what I mean? I get that. But majority of the time it's surprise. People are just surprised that someone is learning such a minority language, because not many people study, local regional Indian languages. And so that shocks a lot of people when I say I speak Malayalam and Telugu. I guess it would have to be Ra, because I guess Ra means guy, but it also means come. And so, like my friend from Hyderabad would say, hey Ra, like I'm like, at first I'm thinking he's saying come, but he's like saying, hey dude, Athena va iroju? Iroju tina va? Because I hear that all the time from people. Like, yeah, so I'm thinking like when I get asked, I'm thinking like, do you like care? Like really, or like are you just saying like how am I doing? Absolutely get a teacher. I feel like lots of us feel that we can learn languages independently, and I feel like you can do that depending on the language, but I feel like it's always better to have someone guide you. I had someone guide me through it who was correct me when I was wrong and things like that. So having a teacher would be my first tip. And to have self-discipline, I feel like people kind of stress the fact that you should be motivated when learning a language. Like that's like the main thing. But for me, it's kind of self-discipline because you're not going to be motivated every single day. A language is hard, and Telugu is not the easiest language to learn. Having self-discipline, telling yourself, let me talk myself into doing something today that my future self will thank me for. And it's also easy to fall discouraged to a language like a minority one too, because you're going to constantly think to yourself, it's a minority language, why do I need to learn it anyway? So it's easy to fall into like that trap of discouragement. But Telugu is really rewarding at the same time. So I think that is my tip, having a teacher, developing self-discipline, and make friends, like meeting the right people. Like people can really enhance your experience with that, because I feel like when people are complimenting you, saying that, oh, ni baga Telugu matlaadutunnavu, I'm like, that makes me feel happy. I'm like, wow, really? So it makes me like want to keep going and like learning more Telugu, So I feel like, yeah, finding the right people. I love Hello Talk. It's free. I love it. That's my go-to app. I would use the same methods that my teacher did. He focused on conversational stuff first, like teaching us like, ekara, epuru, just like small things like that. I think that can go a long way. I think starting off with conversational stuff, learning how to form sentences, not going too far into conversational stuff. I'd rather get like a small foundation in it and then start with the script, because you don't want to learn full conversational Telugu and then go to learning the script and then having to like relearn these basic words. So I think getting like familiar with speaking and then the script and then getting more comfortable with a strong foundation in spoken Telugu. So it took me so long to learn the script. Oh my God. I'm like, you have to learn the letters, then the symbols, and then oh my God. It was so, I struggled with it. Like there's letters that like look the same. I think if I'm not mistaken, like the O and the O and like the Ja, I think they like all look like, I'm like, why is there 3 T's? I know the script, but like not to the point where I can like read at ease. Like I have to like take my time with it, Still to this day I have trouble. Training myself to pronounce the letters clearly helped me when I was pronouncing actual words. They do recommend that you learn the script first so you can get familiar with how things sound. The teacher was like, we only have 5 months here, so I want you guys to be able to learn the conversational Telugu first and then get to the scripts. I liked it because I was able to, before learning the script, I was able to be understood by other people outside, which was my goal. So I feel like you can measure your success by, I guess, if you go to a place where the language is spoken, like for any language that is, spend some time there, and then when you come back to your home country, when you pop on a Telugu movie, you're going to see how much you've grown in your listening skills. And I always think too, because I'm an interpreter, I think interpreting is also a great way to learn and to learn things that you don't know, because if I pop on a Telugu film and just start interpreting into English, I can see what words I don't know in English and like mark those down and learn them like that. But I think in terms of trying to measure that, I always think other people have a better way of measuring our growth in a language rather than we do, because we're with it every single day. So it's hard to see our own growth every single day. It's like going to the gym. Like you don't really see your progress every day, but people who don't see you for like 2 weeks will see, oh my God, like you've lost weight. You know what I mean? So I think that validation from other people will send a message to you that you are improving. Like looking at my old book, like from the first days I was learning the script and being able to like look at a sign in Telugu and just being able to read it, I'm like, I've come a long way. I always aim for expressing yourself. I hate to say being fluent, because being fluent is such a subjective concept, because what fluent may mean to you may mean something different to me. I feel like if you're able to express yourself, you speak the language. I feel like if you can go to like an auto rickshaw driver and say, Naku ikaraki veltanu, like that's basic Telugu, but I just express myself in the language. So I feel like setting a small goal, perhaps knowing that you can express yourself, even like a simple way. And maybe a long-term goal would probably be looking for ways that will really push you to learn, push you to become more fluent. I guess picking a job, like a bilingual job for Telugu, or doing things out of your comfort zone, doing things that you think you're not ready for to test yourself. I think that should be a long-term goal, because I came back from India and I didn't expect this, but someone had reached out to me on LinkedIn asking for Telugu assistance. And I was like, wait, I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, what? And so, but I did it and I was successful in it. You know, it wasn't like anything like a high level type of situation. It was just, I was talking to some children, right? But that was easier for me because I know basic Telugu. So it was easy for me, you know? So I feel like being able to step outside of your comfort zone is really a great way to really gain that fluency that you're looking for. Your future self will thank you for this. Your future self will definitely thank you for this, because learning Telugu opens many doors. Back in Hyderabad, when I was there, people would ask me, how are you going to use this when you go back to America? And I would think, I don't know. I'm going to find something to do with it. And like I said, I came back here and someone had reached out to me for assistance. And so I never thought that would happen. So I feel like knowing that your future self would thank you for this, all the hard work that you put into, and since there's a common, I guess, misconception that this is such a hard language, that should be a lot more motivating to actually learn it. That makes it a lot more rewarding to learn, you know what I mean? And I guess it could be really different depending on who you ask, because someone who comes from a Telugu family may have different goals than someone who's like me, an American who wants to learn the language. You know, it's easy. I feel like I could fall into being discouraged. Like, I will never use this ever in my life. Whereas someone who is Telugu may think, I'm going to go to India next year, I should learn it, even if I do come across certain barriers. So I think it really does depend on like each situation. But I always think your future self will thank you for this. Absolutely. Since it is a minority language, it makes you stand out. Because like when you put it on a resume, an employer will see that and think, wait, what? Like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, they will call you back instantly, like, hey, like, I want to expand my business to wherever this region is. Like, what? You know what I mean? So it's flattering when people reach out to me, and parents, right? They'll reach out and say, my kids don't speak Telugu. I'm like, you do? You showed my kid, like, it's possible to learn this language. I'm like, thank you. Like, that really inspires me to really keep going with this. Learning Malayalam, people were like, why are you going to learn this language? Like, no one speaks it. I'm like, well, I want to speak it. So it's so beautiful, you know, and like people, and I've even gotten opportunities to use that for jobs as well. I always think If you want to learn something that's uncommon, like a language, for example, if it's considered like a minority language, learn it now, even if you don't know how you're going to use it later. Learn it and figure out how to monetize it later. You know what I mean? You can monetize it in so many different ways. People are going to need that. And the reason why people reach out to me for that is because they still need language support for these languages, because most Indians, for example, who come to the US to find jobs, they don't really look for jobs in translation. They usually look for jobs in like engineering or medical fields. They don't really come here to be like an interpreter, right? So that's why it's not saturated with interpreters from, Telugu backgrounds, because I've been asked too, like, why do people ask you, like, why don't they just get like a native speaker? I'm like, well, because there's not really that many people who seek jobs in translation who come from India. That's why. And like, you never hear Indians say, I'm gonna go to the US to be a translator. It can be lucrative at the same time, like, I discovered a new language that I never even thought existed, and I learned it, and now I use it to bridge cultural gaps here in America, and I love that. Experience is like all that matters for me, because I feel like in 5 years from now, I'm not going to remember the A I got in biology. I'm going to remember walking the streets of Hyderabad. Absolutely. Such a great pleasure being here to talk about my experience learning Telugu. Thank you.